What's up, my people? I got me mamita with me, but I'm gonna share with you how to get started in your short-term rental Airbnb or VRBO business. I'm gonna go through how to find the market and all that stuff. So stay tuned. It's gonna be a lot of heat and a lot of value.
Jamal, man, this beat is crazy.
Good, family. So shout out to my boy Villian. He kind of inspired me to make this video because he asked a really good question, and I think it's appropriate to now make this content. And just for those of you who don't know me, I'm Blake. Anytime I'm speaking on a topic, it's because I know it or I've done it several times, because I don't like to speak on something I don't know. I just think it adds confusion, and it's being dishonest, and you're just trying to get something for nothing, really, and you're only fooling yourself. So everything I'm speaking on is from personal experience, or I know someone personally that I trust who's experienced it, but this is a personal experience of mine. So let's get straight to it. So the first thing I want to talk about is obviously finding the property. Now, depending on what market you're in, I did mine in the Atlanta market. So being in the Atlanta market, there's not much restrictions. There are starting to become some in the city, but my property was on the suburbs. So what I did was there's no restrictions, which is great. And you have to figure out, like, who do you want your customer to be? Because I think the biggest problem is trying to serve everybody. And I kind of alluded to that in my last video, speaking of, like, what do you want your theme to be? So I want to focus on families, because in the suburbs, there's a lot of families and stuff like that. So you need to find out if this is going to be a personal property that you're going to share a room within your property, or is this going to be an investment property to where you're going to have the whole thing rented out and you won't be staying there at all. Or it could be your personal property, and whenever you're going out of town, you rent out the whole thing. So it all depends on you. But a lot of people sleep on just renting a room, because a lot of times people are traveling. You got to think about international travelers too. Sometimes they're used to staying in a hostel, and pretty much, if you're not familiar with a hostel is, it's like a hotel room with a bunch of random people in one room and sharing one bathroom, and it's just bunk beds stacked up. So this is actually better than a hostel if you rent a room out of your house, and all you got to do is get the Bluetooth lock. It has a code, and they'll be able to get in and get out. And you might share the common area with them, but they could probably have their own bathroom, depending on how many bathrooms are in your home. And people will pay more to end up spending more renting a room than they would if you rented out the whole thing. So don't sleep on that. The next thing I would say is finding out if the market has restrictions, which I kind of alluded to. I don't know. I know New Orleans, like, you can only rent so many months out the year, and then you cannot rent the Airbnb out unless you own it. So, like, a lot of people are making money not even owning a property, just having control of it, because they would sign a lease and they can, you know, the landlord charging, let's say, $1,000 a month, but they're renting it out making $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month. And the landlord's happy because his rent's getting paid, but then the other person's happy because they're making hella profit. And you got to think, when you have an Airbnb, it has to be furnished. And so I made the mistake of buying some cheap furniture, some of the cheaper furniture on Amazon, and it didn't last. So you got to think about, you know, all those things. And it's pretty much like you're running a hotel, right? So the money is there, because, and I'm gonna get to that part too, because I may make two videos depending on who needs more info. But I did want to talk about the money, because I think that's what's going to motivate you to obviously get started. So let's think about this. If you rent out a house to someone for 2 G's a month, the good news is you have a long-term tenant, but the bad news is you could be squeezing way more money out of the property. Let me give you an example. So renting a property at $2,000 a month is only $66 a day. But just imagine if you rent out that same property for $200 a day, but even if it's rented out for 14 days out of the month, which is half the month, so that'll be $2,800 versus $2,000. And then you're not even you can stay there the rest of the days if you want to, or you can throw events, or it could just be vacant. The lights aren't on, the water isn't running, like all that stuff. And so a lot of people sleep on Airbnbs, but you can make so much more money, but you just have to niche down and find the right person. And what I've realized with using this to test it out is I didn't know how it was going to go. And that's the thing about being an entrepreneur. You don't know if it's going to go well, if it's going to go bad, but you just got to believe in yourself and bet on yourself. So the crazy thing is, my only problem, and a lot of people's only problem, is we don't have enough real estate yet now. because there's such a high demand for people. Everybody needs somewhere to stay. And just think, if you have 2 doors or 3 doors or 5 doors, but you have 15 people that need a place to stay, I feel bad that I can't give them a place to stay. So that's another thing, man. So I would definitely think about renting out per room if you have to, but if not, rent out the whole place, but you're still making money than you would on a traditional rental. But again, you have to constantly turn it over, and it's not like a set it and forget it unless you hire somebody to manage it, which, you know, obviously it's taking money out of your pocket, but you have to realize how much is your time worth, pretty much. And yeah, so I'll probably make a part 2 to this video, because there's some things that I know I could probably have gone deeper into, but this will get you started out at the surface. So it's finding a property, making sure there's no restrictions, niching down, and then making sure that you're charging the right amount, because you do not want to be the cheapest in your area. I don't care if you're new. That's a mistake I made. And also finding a neighborhood that doesn't have an HOA, and if it does, try to find a neighborhood that has younger people, because usually when the people are in their early 20s, late 20s, they're not caring about what their neighbor's doing. But once you have neighbors that are like 40s, 50s, not trying to shit on them, but they don't really have nothing better to do, so they're worried about what you're doing, who's in and out your house. And it could be good, because they could be good neighborhood watchers, but you're trying to run a business, they trying to block you, they trying to get you shut down. It's just unnecessary. So try to find places that have a younger crowd if you're going to do the Airbnb thing, especially if you're going to do it like if you're going to have people every weekend in and out of the place, versus it being like in a neighborhood that's more established. But if you do it in a neighborhood that's more established, make sure the people that's there, make sure you cater into the people that are already in the neighborhood, meaning that if it's a very family oriented neighborhood, try to cater your Airbnb to families. So I'll end on that, and I'll see you in the next video. This girl really slept through the whole video. All right, peace.